everybody. So today we're going to talk about the asteroid Hecate, or in my mind I want to say Hekate because it rhymes with Hecate and I'm here in Texas. But I think it is actually Hecate. We're going to talk about her because I feel like I really like her. She's another asteroid that I really like. And I've noticed this thing where people that have prominent Hecates in their chart, they tend to be people that are thought of as a little darker or a little, I've seen these people, and I'm one of them, that has been labeled as dark. And I don't think that that's accurate at all. I don't think that she is universally dark. I think that all asteroids can be, and even planets, right, can have good things and bad things about them, and they can be utilized in good and bad ways. And but because of her mythology and her ties to the underworld, she is automatically kind of knee-jerk thought of as bad. And I do think that this energy can kind of come out to play in charts as well. Yeah. Like she originally, in her original mythology, and her mythology is kind of all over the place. So I'm just going to touch on a few things and then kind of what it could represent in the chart. Her mythology originally dealt with like mysteries and the underworld, right? But over time, that seemed to veer off into things like witchcraft, which I don't think is dark. I think that there are people that do. It all depends on intention, right? Like witchcraft, that can be a good thing or a bad thing. It just depends on what your intentions are and what the fuck you're doing with it. But that does seem to be kind of one of the reasons why she gets lumped in with witchcraft. And I do think that there is something to be said about that. I think people that have prominent Hecates in their chart or what have you, there is something, even if there is something kind of dark or misunderstood about them, I think they also are kind of magical. And I say that because, I mean, I have known people in my own life, and even like clients that have had this prominent in their chart. There's just a magicalness about these people. And I think it can be misunderstood sometimes. And I think certain sorts of people and certain sorts of personalities may not always know what to do with it. So she was some things that were consistent, that are consistent across all of her different mythology stories that seem to exist. She was the only child of Perseus and Asteria. And this is how she received her powers of the sky and heaven, the earth and the sea. Let me see. Also, she has also been regarded as the cosmic world soul, as the mother of angels, and as the savior. Now, you know that pissed the patriarchy off. That a woman, that a female figure was thought of as, or was called something like a savior. You know that wasn't okay. And that's another reason why I think she gets lumped in or gets thought of at, like, over time, her story has become increasingly more dark, right? Over the years, over the ages. If you go through like all of her different possible mythologies, over time, she becomes more dark and bad. And I think that has a lot to do with it. The fact that they wanted to demonize her. I think it's worked. A lot of that has worked. But I could go on. I could harp about that for a while. So I'll spare you. Okay, another thing that's consistent throughout her different mythology stories that I found. She was the one who went down into the underworld with Ceres to find Persephone when Hades or Pluto took her to the underworld, and she helped Ceres find her. And then when Ceres and Hades struck that deal where essentially half the year she would be with Ceres and half the year she would be with Hades, the time that Persephone was down with Hades, Hecate was with her. Kept her company, essentially, watched over her. So she, that doesn't sound like a bad, a bad goddess to me. Not at all. She had this way about her where she was, she's thought of as she's a goddess of transition, of doorways, of crossroads, of liminal spaces. She is able to travel in these different realms, right? And this makes sense because she received powers over the sky and heaven, over the earth, and over the water and the sea. So this makes sense that she would be able to travel in these like liminal, between these places the way that she can. That makes a lot of sense to me. Now she is usually depicted, god damn, stupid bug. She is usually depicted with torches, or sometimes 2 torches, sometimes a torch and a key. Sometimes she is known for having dogs, and for snakes. These are usually things that you'll see depicted around her or on her or what have you, in drawings of her and whatever. Now to me, the torch thing is like lighting a way, being a bright light in a dark world kind of thing. And I do feel like Hecate people that have prominent Hecates in their chart are kind of this. They shine a light. They're able to shine a light on the dark bullshit. But what ends up happening with these people is they end up getting called dark themselves, usually because they're challenging the darkness and they're challenging the shit. And the real darkness, they don't want any part of it. So yeah, that's something else that I've noticed about people that have prominent Hecates in their chart, is that they do have this way of lighting up things that are a little darker in this world. But somehow, because they do that, they end up lumped into this darkness too, even though they're not. I really haven't met one that I felt like was dark, was actually dark, but they're not afraid of the dark, which is actually really cool. We need more people like that aren't afraid of the dark and are okay with leading the way through the dark, that aren't afraid of going into those dark places and shining lights. Let me see. She's also, another thing that she is depicted as, she is seen as a triple deity with Luna, the moon, and Diana or Artemis, depending on what name you like to use, who is Earth, and then she is considered underworld. In this triple deity. Now, sometimes I've seen Persephone put in the place of Artemis there. So it really depends on what you read, but she is depicted as part of this triple goddess deity as well. Yeah, but I definitely think she's pretty cool. I definitely think in a natal chart she can show, and this is just it for anybody, in general, I think she can show where you might be able to be unafraid to go into the dark and shine your light and look around, where you might not have a difficult time doing that. But depending on what she's doing in your chart, or depending on, everything else, you might meet resistance. I find obviously anybody should look at where this is in their chart to see what's going on, but if you find that it's very prominent in your chart, you might find that you come up with a bunch of resistance when you try to do this, or you yourself get labeled as dark for doing it, for being unafraid to dive into the things that maybe other people don't want to dive into or don't want to acknowledge or what have you. She is pretty magical. I do think that, I do think there's something magical just being able to transcend those boundaries, right? To be able to go from the underworld to Earth. There is something magical about that. And just also being known as like the cosmic world soul. That's fucking magical too. So I do feel like where Hecate is in your chart, there might be some sort of magical something or another. And I think I think everybody probably has the access to tap into this, but I do think that the more prominent she is in your chart, the easier it might be. She's also been thought of as like a portal because she's able to transcend worlds. So, which is magical too. But yeah, you should take a look and see where she falls in your chart. What got me thinking about this is I was doing a reading for somebody a couple weeks ago, and he was interested in magic. So I threw in some stuff in his reading about different magical asteroids. Hecate wasn't one of them, but I love her, so I wanted to start with her. I might do some other ones on some of the other ones, but this idea of magic in the natal chart has been on my mind. You might be able to like magically transcend boundaries where Hecate is in your chart, or things kind of like that. She also dealt a lot with herbs, specifically poisonous ones, I believe. But I mean, just herbs in general. If you've got like a prominent Hecate in your chart, you might be good with herbs. There might be some sort of like herbal magic that you could do. But I really feel like if you've got a prominent Hecate in your chart, and anybody, regardless of where it is, but I think for the people that have it prominent in their chart, you could probably do like earth magic. You could probably do like water magic. You could probably do space magic. You could probably even do really dark magic if you wanted to, just because of the underworld component. You probably could. But I do feel like she is good. So I feel like if you were to do that, you might want to do it with the idea that you're doing it for a good cause. I could see magic with Hecate going that way. But yeah, check and see where she falls in your chart. She is asteroid number 100. And on astro.com, it'll come up spelled Hekate. But pull that, see where it falls in your chart. If you feel like sharing, let me know. If you feel like any of this feels right to you, let me know. Like if any of it resonates for you, like in your own life, or how this might play out in your own life, or what have you, let me know. If you're interested in having me read for you and like look at like the magical asteroids, this kind of shit is fun. This kind of shit is a lot of fun. Let me know, because I do this too. And I'll put where you can find me below. And I will see you all later.